I was in a little bit different frame of mind than a lot of devotees I knew and a lot of the memories that I've heard. I really wasn't so shocked. I sort of, expected it. I hate to use the phrase waiting for it, but just, an expectation that it could happen any time. And, it may have been because I was, a little bit traumatized when my father had a tragic accident early in my life. And so, after that, death always seemed to be a thing just right around the corner. And I didn't really care for the grieving process. It was too traumatic. Even when a favorite uncle passed away, I couldn't even go to his funeral because I knew everybody would be grieving. It was just, at that time in my life, it was just kind of repulsive in one sense. Not in a bad way, but just in a way that it was difficult for me to associate with. So, we were always getting letters informing us of Prabhupada's health. It wasn't the first time that all the devotees were chanting, and but it seemed very inevitable that it was going to be any time. So on the solar calendar, November 14th, 1977, I was in the building where we had the slab where Srila Prabhupada came to the old ranch house and stayed there in 1975 for the day. Where Prabhupada stayed was the temple president's office. So he was on one side, and next to that office on the other side, there was a sales room for our spiritual sky incense business. And by that time, we had developed it to the extent that we didn't go out in vehicles as much as we used to. Some devotees did occasionally. We didn't really make as many cold sales, meaning that we would go to people and try to make them a customer, different stores. But we had a well-established line of products and many accounts. And we would just call them on the phone and take orders and sell them new products, send them information in the mail and call them back later. So I was working the phone that day in my office, and I could overhear what went on in the temple president's office. So he got a call. He was informed that Srila Prabhupada had passed away, and this was evening time, so it could have been on November the 15th in America, because it was at night on November the 14th in India, which means night, November 14th would have been morning, November 13th. So it must have been, evening, maybe on the 13th. Couldn't have been ahead of it. So I remember he, for whatever, rascal he turned out to be, he was very sincere back in those days. And he started crying. And I felt like crying, but I couldn't cry. I just didn't have it in me to cry so much. It's something that I knew the disciples should do, but I couldn't just force myself to do it. So, but it was a gloomy day, and it was overcast and raining, something like the day. It wasn't real cold, but it was cool, and you wouldn't wear a t-shirt outside. I remember I just kind of left the office and took my japapis and went off chanting as the night was fast approaching. And, just thinking about the future, I knew that would change things. And in one sense, I felt that would give the devotees, including myself, more responsibility, which is a young man. I was eager for any opportunity in that regards. And so I was just wondering what it would bring in the near future. That's kind of like the mood that I had that evening. It was gloomy. but at the same time it was expected of, what would happen in the future now that the spiritual master has passed on, how and who would take responsibility for carrying on with things. And I was hoping to be a part of that. I didn't see that things would fall apart. I didn't really worry about that so much. I wasn't a grahasta. I didn't have a family. I had renounced my family I had was born in, and I was pretty separated from them from the time I moved into the temple. So, 6 or 7 years I would just occasionally call or generally, not generally, but the only person I'd ever really see was my mother. I didn't really see cousins or brothers or sisters, anyone like that. When you're in kind of a detached situation, you don't tend to worry about material things as much. It was all spiritual, and Krishna was in charge, and Srila Prabhupada had returned to the spiritual world, and now, I was eager to see, what they were going to do next. It wasn't like I was a decision maker. It was a big thing throughout the movement, and, I was more of an observer and a servant in that regard. And whatever consequences it had, I would have some service, and I was sort of eager to be of help. It was a small temple and we didn't have many people, so just having been around since the temple had organized in the New Orleans area gave me a sort of responsibility of always setting somewhat of an example for the new people. And as initiated Brahmin, then I felt that I would be called upon to do something more than just the incense business, which was the most important thing. But sometimes due to the everyday grind, you tend to identify, even in a material way, a little bit. I would be going from account to account, and you see yourself pulling up at places that that the soft drink man is pulling up to, or the beer man, or the sweet man, or the bread man. You start to feel like somewhat of a delivery person or something. I would think, how did I end up with doing this for Prabhupada? I didn't come here to be a delivery man. I would sometimes think like that. I would get other opportunities. I could be the Bajari, and I would do that, but then all of a sudden when you need money and you see the temple president with his head in his hand saying, we really are, financially in trouble here, and you can do something about it, and you're born in capitalistic part of the world, and it's like it's in your blood to put the bread and butter on the table. So then you say, well, I'll go out on the weekend or something, and then next thing you know, you're out every day. Like that, because the Lakshmi is almost like the blood of a small temple. If you're trying to do things like even today, you're trying to make some facility for people. So it's an important thing. So that was my mood. I didn't have any. I was glad to see that in one sense Srila Prabhupada didn't have to suffer. I often wondered why Krishna didn't let him finish the Bhagavatam. It seemed to be the most important thing on earth. But, that was destiny. And so although, those things would run around in my mind, who will finish the Bhagavatam? And, the devotees, just like most of the rank and file, we were asked to stay in our positions and not run off to India and be with Prabhupada. Leaders were called. Yeah, but most of the devotees were just rank and file people. And, we were asked to please keep it together at the temple. And that was the situation after Prabhupada left. And, the leaders simply went around preaching, please stay in your position. Don't let Prabhupada's ISKCON fall apart. We have to publish, and we have to still publish and distribute his books. We have to do all the things we were doing. Prabhupada is in his Vani, in his instructions, not in his Vapu. But as I was looking at some memories this morning, I saw one devotee in Detroit, and I mentioned this to Charupa because he was there. And this devotee said Indra Dumna and some other devotee who everybody would know by name, and I don't remember right now. They bore witness to the same thing that this devotee was saying, talking about the amazing perspective or sight that he had of Prabhupada's arrival, how he saw him floating and sitting on the Vyasasana and the wonderful effulgence that surrounded him. And he made the point that we may say Vani is greater than Vapu, but he said, for me, I see them as equal because many times it's Vapu that gives you faith in Vani. And so that seemed to solidify, his faith in Srila Prabhupada's instructions. I don't know why I had faith in his instructions or why I thought that he was a pure devotee, a spiritual master. I didn't share the same philosophy when I came, and all I wanted to do was just argue with devotees over it. But I felt that, he was bona fide and authorized. But that also takes, a lot of, purification to solidify that and for it not to be just an attraction, an attraction that can fade away, to actually turn into faith, and then, for that faith to evolve. And even in 1977, my faith had certainly evolved to some degree as a disciple, but it was something that still had to be tested and put under fire, in the course of time. As Krishna says, he comes in to develop and to take away all beings. So I'll close on that note. I'd like to go on, but it's just not fair. There's only so much time the other devotees have to give an account also. So it's a first come, first served basis here in Asana. Whoever runs up here first can sit on amongst those immediate disciples. We have to deal with them first. If we had more time, others could come too. But, Longer of Ushaya, Mother Leela, didn't we have one other person? Mother Mohansini. Okay.
I'm getting ready to run right up there.
You're hard to beat if you get going. I don't know, unless that knee, heaven forbid, unless that knee would give you trouble,
Okay, I'll just hobble up there. How about that?
I mean, once you get up here, I know you're going to talk us into everything you say,
Prabhupada ki jai.
We'll figure it out here in a moment. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityananda Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravarni Pachari Namaste Sunimita Sakaya Deshacharane. I was in Los Angeles when Srila Prabhupada left his body, so it was a totally different atmosphere than what Yogendra was experiencing here at the farm. I mean, other devotees at the farm may have gone through what I went through, but Yogendra Prabhu was not portraying that. Somebody on Sankirtan yesterday that said to me, one devotee, I'll not name, said, appearance and disappearance is the same. And I said, sorry, if you were there, you would know. It wasn't the same at all. It was devastating. Every devotee was crying and wailing, and it went on for hours and hours. We all felt completely lost, heartbroken. And that still carries on today. I feel like I don't know Krishna, I don't know how to love Krishna, but I have a deep love and care for Srila Prabhupada, and I miss him so much. He's everything to me. He's my life. He's the reason I get up in the morning and try to do something in the day. So many devotees felt that were there experienced that same feeling of devastation and heartbreak. And still every time it comes around, every year, it still feels the same. Oh no, I don't want to. I feel so. Anyway, I didn't really prepare anything myself to say other than that, but I did read from a dear God sister who's very esteemed in ISKCON. Her name is Krishna Nandini Dasi. Many of you may know her. And so she offered this, and I thought I'd just read it because I liked it a lot. It said, Hare Krishna, on the occasion of our beloved Srila Prabhupada's Disappearance Day, I wanted to share the offering I made for his Vyas Puj 2019, for it is a realization I strive to appreciate every day. Srila Prabhupada, you gave us everything. This is from the heart of Krishna Nandini Devi Dasi, on the occasion of your Vyas Puj 2019. Dearest Srila Prabhupada, I offer my respectful obeisances at your lotus feet. All glories to you forever and a day. At this time, when we contemplate your holy appearance in our lives and in our world, we are reflecting on everything you have given us, all of the deep and extraordinary transcendental gifts you have shared with us, and we are frankly overwhelmed. Overwhelmed by your kindness, by your sacrifice, by your deep love and wisdom, and by your unflinching, pure service to the Lord. The list of marvelous gifts you gave us is unlimited, but we want to take this occasion to enumerate a few of them. The gifts you have granted to each of us individually and to the world in general. Srila Prabhupada, you gave me, you gave us, the opportunity to serve, the absolute message of God, Gauravani, an ever-increasing worldwide community of sincere and hopeful servants of Krishna, a treasure house of transcendental wisdom in the form of our Bhagavad Gita, as it is, the Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and scores of other spiritually empowering books. Faith, and more faith that culminates in love of Krishna, the sweet, sweet holy names of God, through the chanting of which we are saved, purified, protected, empowered, and uplifted. Introduction and connection to so many divine and auspicious personalities, including but not limited to Narada Muni, Tulsi Maharani, Lord Shiva, Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, Raghunath Das and Raghunath Bhatta, Jiva Goswami, Gopal Bhatta Goswami, Janava Devi, Draupadi, Kunti Devi, Bilamangala Thakur, Jayadev Goswami, Baladev Vidyabhushana, that's one word, Baladev Vidyabhushana, Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur, Narottam Das Thakur, Haridas Thakur, Hanuman, Madhavendra Puri, Arjuna, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji, and Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. It's not much longer, but it is really sweet. A deeper appreciation for Lord Jesus Christ and Prophet Muhammad and their pure service to the one Lord according to time, place, and circumstance. A respect and compassion for all living beings and how we are interconnected and interdependent. The method to become free from fear, greed, lust, anger, ignorance, envy, false pride, and a host of unwanted, limiting things. The understanding of our sweet Lord Krishna in his ultimate form as Shama Sundar, Govinda, the original, most beautiful, powerful, loving, creative person. The knowledge of who we really are, spiritual beings full of bliss and eternity, sparks of the one, all-encompassing spiritual being. Knowledge of the proper use and perfection of our senses and our talents. A scientific approach to understanding the material creation. A comprehension of and to whom everything and everyone belongs, the source and maintainer of all, Sri Bhagavan Krishna, Bhagavan Sri Krishna. The formula for how to be peaceful and happy in this life and the next. How to go back home, back to Godhead. Your unflinching promise to take us back home no matter what. The key to the spiritual world. Hope unlimited. Thank you, dear Srila Prabhupada. We beg to live a life that demonstrates our gratitude for you. With love, your hopeful daughter, Krishnanandini Devi Dasi. Where'd that little thing go? Oh, there it is. Sorry. There you go.
No, you come.
Namam Vishnu Hare Krishna Krishna Srimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Vijayami Nevathesha Sunyavadi Pasachara Sita Jai. Hare Krishna, the temple president said talk about the day of. And if I believe right, Yogi, it was during the morning that we found out. Super early in the morning. Back then there was no internet, there was no cell phones, so we were totally dependent on Balavanta Prabhu calling us in Houston. I was in Houston, Texas. It was a small temple, a medium size actually. We had wonderful brahmachari team. We had a few grihastha couples married, and of course we had Lakshmi Narayan as our temple president. So Lakshmi Narayan, staying up all night. We were doing up all night kirtans for the last 10 days, I believe. About 10 days or 2 weeks. And everybody would take different shifts, and we were chanting in front of our Gaurnitai, which are the same Gaurnitai in Houston today. So what's amazing is today was also rainy and cold, and that morning was also rainy and cold in Houston, Texas. And what was it like? It was very dark, and it was very cloudy, and it was very windy, and it was very rainy. If I can describe those as emotions, you can transcribe them into how the devotees felt. It felt like a dark cloud was over our little temple. And actually, if I remember, in Houston, we all dispersed to our own little spaces and lamented or cried as we did, individually and privately. Because we were brahmacharis. Brahmacharis don't cry. We cried. So that was it. Pastimes. I think I saw Prabhupada maybe 4 times, and New Talavana was the first time because I was on traveling Sankirtan from New Orleans. From Houston, I got to participate in the walk here, and that was really wonderful. But I have a clue for other disciples of other spiritual masters in our parampara. What's the trick to developing love and dedication to your guru? And I've got the answer to that, and it's 3 words. 3 words the disciple's got to do. He's got to bust his or her butt for the guru. He's got to sweat. He's got to bleed, and he's got to cry. That's how you develop love and the service consciousness for your guru. That you will die for your guru. You'll take a bullet for your guru. You'll go out and do whatever you need to do to push his mission. This is what we see around the world that people did for Srila Prabhupada. So when Srila Prabhupada was no longer on the planet, because of our kanista mentality and also our yearnings as sishas, as disciples, we felt like lost children, orphaned. At least I'm talking about me. So how was today? Today was awful. Why? Because it was rainy and cold. And I was listening to the Anjalila, Prabhupada's Final Pastimes, written by TKG. Everybody's familiar with the book. Gauradas is reading it on the Prabhupada form. And so that was really somber. And I was crying. But I was also crying because I miss Prabhupada, but I was also crying for me because I'm selfish, because I'm a lousy devotee. But So the lamentation is there. And the sorrow is going to be there. Just like my dear God sister said, it always hurts. This day, I don't like this day. You know? But at the same time, it's a glorious day. We have to see the complete spiritual ramifications of Krishna's pure devotee in his pastimes, up to his last breath. And what an example Prabhupada gave for the rest of mankind, for the rest of the existence of this planet and human civilization. So, bust your butt, develop love for your guru. How did I figure that one out? Well, you mentioned one more time, a pastime. Prabhupada wasn't there, but Prabhupada was there. We were on a traveling Sankirtan brahmachari team from Dallas. This was before I went to Houston. We were collecting and selling books for the Dallas Gurukula, supporting the Dallas Gurukula with our book distribution. And we were really a hotshot, crackerjack team. We were in a little city called Lawrence, Kansas, University of Kansas, where we did a lot of preaching, set up a preaching center. And when we were first setting up, we were basically living and sleeping and eating and praying and chanting and doing everything in the van, because the van is your home. The van in those days was a traveling temple, and with 4 brahmacharis in the van, that was our headquarters. That was our mobile attack wagon. We just finished a long, long Saturday night in Kansas, Lawrence, Kansas, which was the college town. We were doing Sankirtan all day long, and then we'd go out, we'd do either drive-ins, if the weather was permissible, or we'd go do concerts. So I remember we had a long night. We must have been doing Sankirtan for 8 or 9, 10 hours that day. We didn't take rest till 9 o'clock. Maybe we did a concert. And our Jeet, our Sankirtan leader, parked in this nondescript parking lot. It was a strip mall. And we're in Kansas and Lawrence, and we're going to take rest in the van. Well, it snowed like crazy that night. And at night, when all of us were taking rest in the van, our Jeet had this little cassette tape. There was no CDs back then, and no type of instruments like that. And all night long, we would hear Prabhupada's kirtans, Prabhupada's bhajans. And I remember I had to get up because nature called early in the morning. It was barely light, and I couldn't get Prabhupada's kirtan was playing the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, where it's just him and his wonderful harmonium, so sweet. And he goes very, very much in depth, and such a beautiful, beautiful way he's singing. And I remember everyone else is asleep. We just got up. I need to open up the van door, the side door, and it had snowed so much that night that I couldn't even get the van open because the snow was about 4 feet deep. So I'm thinking, I love what I'm doing. I love Srila Prabhupada. I love this because nobody else is doing this. And that was his mercy on us. So I eventually climbed out the window. We took care of business. But I was in denial to Srila Prabhupada left. And that's not the river in Egypt. It took a long time for me to realize that Prabhupada was gone. A long time. Jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Srila Prabhupada, for saving us. My story is basically similar to Yogendra Prabhu's. I also couldn't cry. I also had a calloused heart. I can't say also. I had a calloused heart. I was in Vietnam and saw death. I was familiar with it. It wasn't something new. I was expecting Srila Prabhupada would pass. However, in the course of my service, I found that I believed everything Srila Prabhupada said. I believed he was representing Krishna directly, and I was convinced that my balance of my life was dedicated to him. There were many occasions when devotees would go various places, especially to India, and I would take up their services so they could do so. There were opportunities for me to go, and I would send others. Why? Because when I joined the movement, I was 27 and everyone else was in their early 20s. I had been through a little bit more and was prepared to pull the weight so that others could take benefit from Srila Prabhupada's direct association. I was feeling his association in my services. So when 1977 rolled around, and I hadn't been to India yet, I had already been in the movement for several years. Many of the other devotees had gone while I took their services. Srila Prabhupada was getting to the point where his final pastimes were starting to occur, and I knew if I didn't go for this Gaur Purnima, I wasn't going to see him. So I did. I went for Gaur Purnima 1 month, and I saw the condition he was in. They were carrying him on a palanquin up and down the stairs to his room and down to the temple room. And I had seen him in 1975, as I had described before, when he visited Miami. So this was the second time I'd seen him, the only other time. And I very much appreciated my experience in Miami with him, because at this point it was a distant place to the area where he was giving class from in the temple room, and no one could get very close because he was surrounded by dandas. So I appreciated my visit to Mayapur as well. When I came back and news came that he was getting increasingly ill, more devotees would go to India than normally during the course of the year. They were going to see him for their last opportunity to see him. And so I took on the responsibility of taking as much service as I could so that as many of them could go as possible. As Vishaya Prabhu was saying, there's a fine line between service mentality and actually giving your life to the Guru. Blood, sweat, and tears. That's what it takes to become attached. As the devotees came back, we would, all the rest of the devotees at the temple would, of course, interrogate them. How was Prabhupada? How did he look? How was he doing? And so forth. And so we can see that he was getting close to the end because he was becoming less and less mobile. So when the word came that he had passed away, it wasn't a shock to me. I felt like Yogendra did, that why can't I cry? I'm supposed to cry and then spread the master leaves. I understood that I had become calloused to death, and that I anticipated, and so I had already been mourning the loss as time went on, and I was burning that anxiety, angst that was in my heart. I was burning it in service by allowing the other devotees to go and taking on more service. So I had deadened myself to his departure. But also as Yogendra Prabhu pointed out, in all our minds, we knew that we had to take up more responsibility as a result of his leaving everything in our hands, in his disciples' hands. So we took this very seriously and became very, some of us, some became, as Vishaya said, scattered. They fled. Many brahmacharis and brahmacharinis married and started their own families. There was a disturbance. Prabhupada said that when pure devotee leaves the planet, Maya rushes in. And certainly that occurred. There was so much disturbance in the entire management system, and all of the devotees strained under the new responsibilities. But we pulled through. We're at this point and growing. So we did okay, despite our great loss. If we can't find Srila Prabhupada in our heart, then we're truly lost. There's a sense of responsibility in me and myself. I can't speak for others, but I feel a sense of responsibility. He has departed and left many things undone. I've chosen his second 50%. His first 50% is open temples and sell books. Distribute my books, open temples, penetrate the public, and establish a strong foundation for ISKCON. So this is his first 50%. The second 50% is build your families in the groves that Krishna recognizes most ardently. Raise your families in that environment. Become self-sufficient like Krishna was. Krishna was playing with the milk cows, and Balaram was working the oxen. They took their responsibility for the land and the cows very seriously, and Srila Prabhupada tried to impress that in us, and it just didn't click. And in a lot of instances, it hasn't clicked in a lot of his disciples. But there are many projects all over the world that are fructifying, they're growing, they're expanding. And so his second 50% is on the increase at this point. And it's a good sign to see that these meetings, farm meetings that they have in different locations are taking place. They just had one in New Vrindavan. It's important that the devotees take this second half of his mission seriously, because it'll be a struggle to understand Krishna's mood without living in his environment. Selling books and working at Walmart to maintain households and keeping outside jobs like that, it's difficult to understand what Krishna is giving to us. The Varnashram system is based on the land and the cows. And until we establish what Srila Prabhupada left for ourselves, until we do that, we're going to miss the whole point. We're chanting Hare Krishna and hoping to go back home, but we're not going to become a goat and forget it. You're not going to become a cowherd boy unless you're out there doing something with the land. The thoughts that are in your mind at the time of death is where you go. And if you haven't done any of the basics of establishing Srila Prabhupada's objectives, then you miss the point, you miss the opportunity. You're on step one. You need to get to step two. So anyway, this is something that's burning in my personal heart. But as far as feeling separated from Srila Prabhupada, I don't. Otherwise I wouldn't be racing home with everybody all the time. Anyway, he was giving me too much rope I'm going to have myself. Our Lord Srila Prabhupada. I tried that.
Namaste Saraswati. What everybody say of Srila Prabhupada in the day he left, and all our feelings, everything is true. Everything we all felt in different ways. It's true what Yogendra said, what Talavana said, Mohanasini said, Mother Krishna Mai, you said it all for us. That letter was so special. If I can write proper English or Spanish, that would be my letter. Because he showed everything to us. When Prabhupada got really sick, we did have those 2 weeks of kirtan, 24 hours. And I decided, I was married to Havidasan, and we decided we're going to go visit India and go see Srila Prabhupada before he leaves his body. And between working, I had maybe 3 jobs or something, living outside the temple and working as a secretary. And when I get home, Havi tells me, crying. I never seen a man cry so strongly. That Srila Prabhupada left his body. And I think it's the lamentation and the crying of all the people really loud and see the temple president, all the devotees so upset. I think that was, I didn't know if, I did cry. But seeing all my God brothers and so much lamentation and so hurt, what we going to do now? It was a confusion. Venezuela was a hard temple. It was in Caracas, Venezuela, where I was then. And so my dream of going to India to see Srila Prabhupada before he left, it got shattered. And I didn't know if to work or to lament, cry. It was a lot of confusion. We kept on the kirtans going, but it was very confused. Even though he sent his books, he was there with us. And any detail that we thought Srila Prabhupada would. everything. I mean, there was letters, not phones, but any kind of doubt that the devotees had, we sent a letter to Srila Prabhupada, and directly he responded. So just seeing that such a spiritual, powerful person left, I still went to India after Prabhupada left. And it was even harder because then my husband then also left. So it was me to believe and just accept the devotees to take care of me. And they always have. And when I see all my godbrothers and my godsisters and my aunties and my family all here sitting in different temples, I believe that's what keeps us together. It's like different places it says one stick can get cracked very easily, but if we maintain together, nobody's going to hurt us. So ISKCON is Srila Prabhupada's blood and soul, and we all really need to stick together like sticks, because otherwise we never get broken like this. We'll be very strong. And Prabhupada's wishes, Mayapur is being built, temples have been built, books are being distributed, kirtans are going on, but we won't know anything of this if Prabhupada came to our lives. We won't be here, we won't know each other, we won't love each other and accept each other. And that's so important, actually, to love each other and accept each other as we are. Everybody's individual, and Prabhupada says we're all individuals, but at the same time, cooperation is the mood. We need to cooperate with each other. It doesn't matter if we accept that person or what they say, but the cooperation and tolerance is so important, and that was Prabhupada's desire. Mm-hmm. And we're here trying to build farm communities. That's what Prabhupada's will, again, 50% was communities. We have people who are dedicated to the cows, and all their life is different because they touch nature and cows and herbs and, broccoli, grounds, whatever. And sometimes when we see all this, why we are like this? Because Srila Prabhupada showed us this. Otherwise, we would be in who knows what university and doing, who knows what. I won't even be here, probably. But most likely. But just, he has everything for us and for everybody who meets him and reads his books. That's why it's so important to preach and go out. I don't do it myself, but I encourage everybody to preach and go out. And if I can help anybody to do this, that's his desire. And as we know, we met the deities because of Srila Prabhupada. We met all the Vaishnavas, all the books, Narada Muni, and whatever stories we know and we heard from the Vedic literature, everything is because of Srila Prabhupada. So we are no one without him. So Jai Srila Prabhupada for taking us and taking care of us and taking care of me. I think I was the last one who got initiated, and that's because the devotees pushed so much. Come on, Rosa, come on, you have to get initiated. You got initiated, you are in the letter, Prabhupada accepted you. And I'm so happy he accepted me. I am so happy. Even though I don't deserve it, but I'm so grateful and so happy. Jai O Vaishnava, Jai. Hare Krishna.
We have a few minutes before the side will be ready. They'll bring the plate and all.
Krishna, can you help me with this game?
If somebody else would like to say something, they're more than welcome to.
I don't have to get up there to say a couple sentences, just a reflection on what I've heard
Sure, you
already.
can sit down. project your voice.
What's that?
Just project your voice a little bit.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think I have a lot of, okay. Oh, on the left, I'm sorry, Prabhu. Never mind. It was just a couple sentences. Oh, it's not important. I didn't realize something was coming out.
Jai Srila Prabhupada. I prefer to not talk, but I am doing out of respect and appreciation for Srila Prabhupada. My spiritual master and my husband has encouraged me to talk. I was thinking, I never had the good fortune to meet personally Mukunda Maharaj, but in his book he says something very interesting. He says, now that Srila Prabhupada is gone and we are here, we have a big responsibility, not only to keep ISKCON afloat, but also it's the responsibility like in a family. If a grandpa passes away, who is going to continue with the traditions, with the family structure? Who is going to continue? The sons, the daughters, and when they are gone, it will be the grandkids. So it's a big responsibility, like Prabhupada was saying. A lot of us are disciples of the disciples of Srila Prabhupada. Therefore, one day, through the years, each one of us are going to have the same experience as Prabhupada disciples had so many years ago. And just to think where we will be, how each one of us will take that, it kind of scares me. How we are going to live after that moment. But that is the truth, and that is the beauty of this process of Krishna consciousness, that Srila Prabhupada he gave us everything. It's like he gave us what is life and what is death. And that is the bigger lesson that he gave to us, how to go, like he did in such a beautiful, glorious way, even that it was painful for his disciples, but he has to give the last lesson, and he gave in Vrindavan the last lesson. And one day, each one of us, the sons, the daughters, the grandchildren, we are going to go also to do that lesson of losing our spiritual gurus, and one day also losing our own lives. Something interesting happened a few weeks ago. Our spiritual master, His Holiness Jayapataka Swami, was visiting the Middle East, and I was sharing this with the God sister, and I was saying how important it is that we apply Krishna consciousness in a way that is realistic, that is practical, that is a tool for preaching. Because that is what ultimately Srila Prabhupada told. Preach, continue the preaching. And we have to adjust to what is now life. Like Bushaya was saying, we didn't have smartphones, we didn't have iPads, we didn't have personal computers. We have to rely on a phone, in those beautiful old square phones, somebody calling from India, or maybe sending a telegram or something like that. Now we have so much technology for the good, but also for the bad. But also, I think we have to see things with a more broad perspective. And my Guru Maharaj was preaching to very wealthy people in the Arab countries, Bahrain, the United Emirates Arabs, where a lot of people from India, especially intellectuals, professionals, are living and working. and he was saying something that caught my attention. He said, we can have the best of the two worlds. You live now here, you work here, and it's okay. You can have that material benefits. But you know what? The best is to use those facilities to use in Krishna consciousness. So we have, he said, for example, the project in Mayapur. And what better way to use your good fortune but giving to the temple of the Vedic planetarium. And even here at home, supporting your temples and giving your kids the facilities, but at the same time, giving them Krishna consciousness. So I just wanted to end it by saying that Srila Prabhupada was so intelligent, so practical, with such a huge vision, not only for the 60s and the 70s and the 80s. He had a vision for 10,000 years ahead. Therefore, ISKCON has to move accordingly to the time. And I just wanted to say thank you very much to everybody for continuing with the program of Srila Prabhupada.
How much longer, Maharaj?
We have it. They will turn cold if somebody doesn't go and get them now.
All right, the Prasad is going to be closed, so thank you very much for coming. Keep Srila Prabhupada in our heart and take his Prasad this evening.
Thank you.
Srila Prabhupada, keep